Welcome back, everyone. I'm so thankful that you are all joining us for day 2 of our National Town Hall event. I am Vivian Sanchez, youth advocate, survivor, and today's event weaver. Before we get started, I'd like to offer a trigger warning. Some of the content that we will be talking about today could be triggering to some. If at any point it becomes too much, please feel free to take a step back or just sign off. We care about your mental health and your overall well-being, and we thank you for being able to recognize when something is too much. That is very, very courageous. I'm so proud of you all for being here today, and I really do want to extend my thank you to everyone here and all the speakers. Today, while I have this time to talk, I want to read a poem. I wrote this poem about 2 years ago when I was at an extremely dark point in life. I had lost all my hope. This poem is titled Not and Never. Not and Never captures the real and raw emotions of what I went through. The battle of trying to navigate life after trauma. Again, I really want to emphasize to take care of yourself before, during, and after listening. Thank you. I will now begin. Not and never. I'm not worthy of love. In fact, I'll never be. Honestly, I don't know if I ever really want to be. Love hurts. It causes pain, heartaches, disappointment. Love hurts. I'll never be worthy of love again. I thought he loved me. I really did. I thought he cared for me, but he ended up hurting me in a way I never thought was even possible. He broke me down physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. He made me do things that I didn't want to do. And afterwards, he said, I love you. How can you love someone if you hurt them? How can you hurt someone and then act like everything's okay? He hurt me. He broke me. And even a year later, I still catch myself having heavy thoughts about him. He still comes into my thoughts, and he can still somehow hurt me even when he's not here. It's not fair. He makes me feel like I'll never be good enough. He makes me feel uncomfortable. He makes me feel scared. I still think about him on normal days, doing normal people things. Even whenever I just want to walk into Walmart, I remember the day we walked in and bought coffee. That smell now makes me sick to my stomach. Even when I just want to shower, I remember those terrible days. Looking at myself, the bruises, everything is a reminder. It hurts. He took a lot from me, and I just want this case to close. I just want justice, and I want him to stop hurting kids and ruining lives. But also, I'm not sure if I can ever face him and testify and tell the whole courtroom what he did while he's in there. I wish I would have never met him. I wish I didn't still think about him. I hope he's happy now because I'm hurt. That's what he wanted all along, to make me feel so little. And guess what? He won. Because now I can barely stand looking myself in the mirror without thinking of him. He's managed to hurt a lot of people and ruin a lot of lives. but I hope he never has to feel the pain that I do. There's a lot of things that shouldn't have had happen. A lot of things I did not want to happen, but he did them anyways. He didn't treat me like a person. He treated me with no dignity. To him, I was just someone he could take advantage of. I still wonder why he did this to me. And I still wonder, did he ever love me? Or did he ever care? Till this day, I ask, why me? What did I do to deserve this? I'll never know why. I'm going to give everyone a moment just to process and breathe along with myself. I'll just take a minute to do a deep breath. Wow. When I look back at that poem, my heart aches and breaks for my past self. A couple months ago in therapy, my therapist challenged me to write a letter to my younger self. The hurting, scared, fragile Vivian. And now I want to read that letter today. I don't want to only read it to myself, but every survivor here today. It reads, Dear past self, we endured something that no one should have to. We struggled a lot and it was scary. For a long time, we didn't think we'd make it past the age of 15 because the pain was too overwhelming. Everyone says that with time, the pain will get easier. And it used to make us angry because this pain was different. It felt overwhelming and never ending. It hurt to be in our own body, but I will now be the one to say that with time, things do heal and it does get easier. Things do get better. Healing is possible. Healing is long, hard, beautiful, and a very rewarding journey. You're going to have a lot of ups and downs. It's going to suck a lot sometimes. You could be doing fine one moment and then something triggers you and you feel like you're back in that moment. But the upside is that now we know it's just a moment. It's not forever and it's not your lifetime. The pain is not forever. Life does get better. Do not make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. You matter. I know it feels like sometimes everyone would be happier if you weren't here, but this is not true. The world is a better place with you in it. You do make a difference. Keep fighting for yourself, for all survivors. We got this. Also, you should note that love should never hurt. You're going to learn healthy love, and you're going to be so happy that you chose to keep living. We're changing the world now, and we are making a difference. Sincerely, youth advocate and survivor, Vivian. Today, I really want to focus on hope and healing because sometimes it can be hard. And I think everyone sometimes needs a reminder that things can and will get better. If you're struggling to take that next step forward, I want to be the one to tell you, you can do it. I know it's scary and maybe you don't really want to, but all of us here are rooting for you. And we all want you to keep going. My therapist once said, things do get better, but how will you know if you leave this earth? You have to stay. Stay for all the moments you haven't lived yet. Stay for healing because you deserve to heal. Stay for yourself. And now I live by that. I hope someone else hearing this today will choose themselves and will choose healing, because life is so beautiful and so worth it. But you have to be here and stay here to see it through. I hope you all stay later on for my closing and a nice little activity I will be doing. And I hope you all enjoy listening to all of our amazing, courageous, strong speakers that we have lined up today. All of our speakers embody survivorship and strength. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to hear all of you here today. I will now turn it over to Charlene Payton, lead coach and consult at Payton Place, to facilitate the opening panel for today, Boots on the Ground. Take it away.
Welcome again, everyone, and hello, good morning, good afternoon. So delighted to be here with you as facilitator for the Boots on the Ground session. And I want to take a moment to just check in with you and introduce myself. Thank you actually very much for that wonderful introduction, Vivian, and for setting the tone for how we move forward. I appreciate it very much. Wonderful poem and letter to self and note to self. I need to probably do that at some point. So thank you very much, Vivian. You honored us in that moment, so thanks. So I'm Sherilyn Payton, lead coach and consultant at Payton Place Coaching and Consulting. The focus of our work is to help leaders find a more authentic path for their leadership, as well as to center justice in their work, mission, and vision, and how apropos for what we'll be doing today. So I want to also begin here by just kind of giving you some framework for our topic that we're going to be talking about. To start, I'm sorry, I lost my page here. Excuse me, so sorry. Okay, excuse me. So Boots on the Ground, centering the voices and leadership of BIPOC survivors and advocates in prevention is our topic. I had my page out of order, so apologize to everybody. You're going to get a chance to meet some amazing both survivors and advocates in this space. I have the privilege of introducing to you the panelists, but I also just want to remind everyone why this is even necessary for us to bring BIPOC voices and stories into the space around advocacy and prevention. So thinking of the lived experiences of Black and Brown women, Indigenous peoples, and the silencing, the invisibilizing, the minimizing, and the just consistent challenge of being seen and heard. The difficulty of bringing your victimization into a space and then being re-victimized often. So I just want to remind everyone to think of it more broadly. Why BIPOC? This is why BIPOC. Because the challenges that BIPOC communities and individuals face is just different. There are a different set of challenges, everyday waking and everyday sleeping. Waking up to Black and brown skin and the challenges that come with just existing in a world that doesn't believe you have permission to exist. So I'm honored to introduce to you our panelists for this session. For the time that we'll be spending together, we'll invite you to share at some point a question you may have. But to begin, we're going to have our panelists to share with questions that were already presented to us, and that's how we'll begin today. So I'd first like to introduce Joyce Kyles. She, her, hers. She is an award-winning international facilitator, speaker, two-time Amazon best-selling author, community advocate, and a certified life and thriving skills coach. She is the founder and CEO of Walking Into a New Life, Incorporated, and she's also the CEO of Joyce Cowles Consulting, LLC. Joyce has received certifications in the area of domestic violence, sexual assault, child sexual abuse, and mental health. A proud mother and Mimi, Joyce is a member of the Junior League of Memphis and a board member for the Memphis and Shelby County Domestic and Sexual Violence Council. Welcome, Joyce, and thank you. I'd now like to introduce Molly Dolores. Molly Dolores, she, her, hers, is a mother, survivor, and forever advocate. She is from Pueblo of Laguna in New Mexico. Molly is the Client Services Coordinator at Roberta's Place, Incorporated. She has been in the domestic violence field for 8 years and a survivor for over 17 years. Molly is the mother of three children, and continues to live within her Native American community, serving my people and the populations in the surrounding areas, serving her people, Rhonda Anita, welcome Rhonda. And welcome Molly, thank you. Rhonda Anita, she, her, hers, a Rose of Sharon Transition Living for Women, Incorporated, was formerly known as Rhonda A. Thompson, a voice for the voiceless, award-winning and 2-time international best-selling author. Rhonda is an overcomer of domestic violence and child sexual assault. 3 suicide attempts to name a few, to becoming an astonishing award-winning empowerment speaker, certified healing life coach, and author who informs and motivates and empowers women of all walks of life to live purposefully. Miss Anita is the mother of 2 sons and the author of The Rebirth, Don't Spill the Tea, and the co-author of Women Win Against All Odds. Miss Anita's mission is to healing the human spirit by equipping women to create their own reality of wholeness through self-awareness, confidence, and forgiving. Thank you and welcome to everyone. So glad to be with you for this session. So I'd like to just start with a question that I'm sure everyone has considered at some point. And in this work, so how can we champion the work of BIPOC leaders in the field who are making change? That's our first question for the panel. And I'd like to invite each of you to answer, and we'll just go around in the rotation. And Molly, do you mind if we start with you for this question?
Let me get myself unmuted first. Hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to share the space with all these empowered individuals who have moved on victimization to survivorship, to thriving, to living and being that voice for the many countless others that have gone before us and made the ultimate sacrifice for us to do this work, for us to be able to live in these worlds where we must have this great amount of oomph, a great amount of courage, of determination to seek out equality that should just be open to us. So how can we better champion the work? We can better champion the work by not being silent, by by letting our leaders know in our communities, in our agency, that we will be heard, that we have this voice, that just because we were once a victim, we don't stay in that space, and we're allowed to grow. We're allowed to move forward. We're allowed to have an education. We're allowed to have experience. We're allowed to be who we want to be. For many years, you know, as a victim, I didn't have an identity. In my home, I was called woman. Out in public, I was my child's mother, you know. Through the years, the abuse has motivated me to just be loud and to have a voice, to not be so timid sometimes, although the nervousness sometimes gets the best of me and I start to ramble, so I apologize in advance. But I think where it really comes down to is supporting your people. It's finding your way and just staying determined and finding those gray areas and just weaving your way through it and not taking no for an answer. Really being passionate, letting your passion come out and letting folks know that they're not going to knock you down. And if they do, you're going to get right back up and you're going to be right there and being like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm fighting for. And I'm going to stay here in your face.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you so much. And actually, we'll pop it over to Rhonda. Rhonda?
Hello. I will be remiss if I don't acknowledge that powerful poem that we just heard. It helped me to, you know, I teach a group called I call it Chat and Chew. And this is an opportunity for survivors to come together and talk about triggers in life. Because one thing I realized is that as a survivor, I call myself an overcomer. And the reason why is because I use my pain for purpose and to help other people get out of the same trauma or abuse that I was in. So I call myself an overcomer. But I do this Chat and Chew because it's important to know the ripple effects of abuse and how it may have happened 20 years ago. I do this exercise where I take a sheet of paper and I have the audience yell out offenses and I ball the paper up. And then I have the audience go back and say positive reinforcement. And then what I show is the wrinkles that are left in the paper. And that's just an example of verbal abuse. And so those wrinkles are there forever. Healing is a perpetual process to getting there. It is a beautiful one. It takes time and different for everybody. So I really enjoyed that poem because although I was triggered, I have some tools to be able to get back up and not stay there and be empowered. So I wanted to just thank her, Vivian, for that amazing poem. I think one of the best ways to support BIPOC leaders is to, especially those who have been through abuse, is to understand that those of us that are boots on the ground, we can not only do the textbook help, but we also understand it emotionally and physically. And so when we are looking for support, we're coming as the voice for those who have not been able to get past the gatekeeper at the call centers. And so being able to really, you know, if another organization is calling, I've spoke about this before in some different platforms. So thank you, Leona, again, from the Georgia Coalition for having me here. But I've talked about this before, those of us that are on the front line who are survivors, we get triggered from calling some of the mainstream organizations when we're treated like we don't matter. And I just think that that paradigm of security and safety needs to be altered a little bit so that we can provide the support that the people that are not able to get through the hotlines need. But when we feel shut down as well, it makes it difficult to continue on. Many of us have not given up, but we continue to do the work and be victimized over and over again. I have to say this, African-American women, women of color, are the least respected, the last on the totem pole. And we have gone through this historically forever. And so now that the movement and the voices are getting louder, I want us to think about not necessarily special privileges, but think about it if it were you and how you would feel in your skin if one of your family members or you were going through it. So I think we have to, some of us, and there's no slight against those that are working in the field who have not been through abuse, but it's important for you to know that although you get a paycheck, these are lives, these are people who are dying in front of their children. And if a grassroots organization is calling you, that means we really need help. And I've gotten to a place where I don't call anymore. I do the best I can on my own, and I should never feel that way.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Rhonda. That was a wonderful sharing and very honest. And I want to just honor, so this moment of transition, I'm going to lift up something as I give Joyce an opportunity to respond. So one of the ways that we can champion BIPOC leaders is what Leona did for you, inviting you into this space to share your story, inviting you into this space to have voice. And Molly, whoever invited you, having the representation for Indigenous peoples and women, right? And I'm going to now segue to my dear friend, colleague, coach, Joyce, to answer the question, because this is one way in which we can champion.
Yes.
I am here in this space because of her invitation, and I want to publicly say that is the way we champion one another. When you make room, Joyce.
Wow, thank you. Because I wasn't expecting that. So thank you. That actually is one of the things that I was going to mention. Maybe it's our kindred spirit in that regard, Sherilyn, but just listening to Rhonda and Molly and the things that they are lifting up. And I too, Vivian, I heard you yesterday. So I loved you yesterday. I really love you today. Just being who you are and the strength at such a young age. It is commendable. It is beautiful to see and witness and experience in this space. So I honor you for honoring us and giving us the opportunity to hear you and see you and be a part of this. Absolutely, one of the best ways is inviting others into the rooms that you sometimes find that you can't get in, that you aren't able to get in. And I think we also have to trust each other too. We sometimes we work in these silos so much and we get pushed down and kicked on, literally sometimes, but definitely emotionally and spiritually so much that we just kind of keep to ourselves. And so sometimes in our doing that, we don't necessarily think about the impact that our being and working in silos may actually have on other individuals. So whereas they may look to you for strength, they may also look at you and feel a sense of intimidation because you seem so strong, because you seem so much of the champion, and I'm afraid to even approach you. So I think it's everything that Molly lifted, everything that Rhonda lifted, everything that Sherilyn lifted. But I also want to encourage us to do some self-reflecting and make sure that we are maintaining a sense of boots on the ground while we are still yet trying to push to be in these spaces, in these areas, because we absolutely belong in them. I feel that boots on the ground, let me say this, when I started doing this work, I actually started a podcast called Boots on the Ground. And it's intentional. And I started doing it as a blog, and I'm actually going to go back to doing it again starting next month because I have more free time to do that. It is a passion of mine. And the reason that I started Boots on the Ground is because I wanted to give people in the community an opportunity to share their voice, to share their work, to share their resources, to share their experiences in a safe space, a brave space. And for some of the people that I interviewed, that was the first time that anyone had ever noticed them. And they have been doing amazing work. I am so humbled to know that the little space that I've had to offer was the first space for some people of color who were ignored in very much the same way that I had been. So I think we have to champion each other, but to Molly's point, we have to champion ourselves. We just have to get out there and just do it and speak, be creative in the ways that we do it, but to continue to do it. I remember very well as we segue, I know, into another question, but I want to lift this up because it's relevant to what it means to champion for you. When I started doing this work, as long as I allowed myself to be introduced as a victim of abuse, a victim of assault, a victim of financial disparity, I had all kinds of support from my white counterparts. The moment I decided to host my very first program, those same individuals, one in particular, sent me an email and told me that there was a domestic violence program going on this day, and this day. I needed to tell her more about my plans because they did not want it to be that there were too many programs that would interfere and run over one another. And I thought to myself, who are you to tell me that I can't use my voice? You're the same person that now won't allow me into your space and your circles because I will not allow you to address me as a victim. So I had to champion for myself in that space. But when I did that, other people took notice of it too. Now I sit in tables and spaces with that same individual and her friends. I'm invited. I don't have to force. And when I get there, she's, oh, it's so good to see you. It's not for you. It's not. Let's be clear. Because I personally would rather not see you either, but we're here for the greater good of the people that we have been commissioned to serve. And that is, has been, and will always be my priority. So we got to champion for each other in this space, but never forget to champion who you are in this space and that you belong here.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce. And I'm just going to say to each of you that your voices in this space as a reminder, right, for how advocacy shows up, even in sharing in this moment again, your experience while trying to advocate, right? What Rhonda said resonates so much with me. I'm sure it resonates with Molly and Joyce. I've heard Joyce's stories. We're friends outside of this space. We're colleagues as coaches outside of this space, and we share our experiences just trying to do the work. The challenges that come with just trying to show up in the work. So let me move along. This is a question I really want to give some attention to. And if we can give, maybe some steps that we are currently taking to help people along in this question. What can agencies do? Because again, Rhonda spoke of her experience. Molly shared a little bit about why self-advocacy is so important, because sometimes the people who should be advocating are part of the problem. What can agencies do right now to prioritize the health and well-being of BIPOC advocates, especially those who are survivors doing the work? So what can agencies, the agencies either that you are adjacent to, partnering with, collaborating with, or experiencing some challenges, even connecting to, what can, if they are willing, what can they do right now?
Well, I'll jump right in and say, believe us. Believe that we are the people who are the boots on the ground. We are the ones with the ear to what it is that victims and survivors actually need, not what you think they need. Because most of the time, what you think they need, they don't want it. They're not interested in it, or they're not ready for it. And so to try to push your agenda it continues to be problematic. So for me, and I'm sure Molly and Rhonda have some other perspectives to share, but for me, hands down, is to believe us when we tell you that yes, she needs to be in a safe environment, but she's hungry right now. Can we get her a sandwich first? So while she's sitting here talking to you, that she can actually be clear in mind and spirit, because she may be able to think a little better about what options may be available to her. But if she can't hear her thoughts because her stomach is growling, that's a problem. So we don't think about things in its tangible perspective. And that's bothersome for me for what I see when it comes to advocacy and agencies, not showing up for us or not hearing us because they simply don't believe us. They think that, well, I've been doing this for 10 years. Yeah, but you've been sitting behind that desk for 9.5 of them. I'm out here doing the work and I hear what they need. So can we go through my checklist perhaps and compare it to yours? And what you'll likely find is that what I have will actually be more tangible and a win for all of us. Because if I can get these needs met, she's going to be, or he, let us be clear, or he is far more interested in helping and supporting themselves, and the needs are being met. You get your numbers. I get to help my victim, my survivor. Everyone wins. But if you don't believe me as a Black woman, simply because I'm Black, to start with, that in itself is a problem. So it's like, if you can't get past this Black skin, you're never going to hear the rest of me. And that is the reality that I see and experience at the lowest level of agency to the more higher multi-million-dollar agencies. It's the same issue because I'm Black in both spaces.
Yes.
It's powerful.
We recognize, oh my God, the depth of that statement, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you so much. Rhonda, I see you unmuted. You want to go ahead and chime on in there?
I'm on fire. So, so I do really appreciate that. I think too, I'm grateful for the coalition here in Georgia. I feel that I've gotten some support from them, and they have really try to bring the grassroots into mainstream. One thing that I think as well that can help is if the mainstream, like she said, believe us, bring us to the table. Don't be afraid to partner with us in creating memorandums of understanding so that we can have a quick conduit. I know I got this center that, that I'm in relationship with. I think that needs to be a policy. And obviously not every grassroots, but, ones that, when we come to forums like this that you feel comfortable with, and creating that relationship. Understand we're so busy trying to just do the work. And a lot of us is a one-woman show or one-man show. So we may not have the funds or resources to spend the time to connect with you on that level, but look at opportunities to partner with us in ways that we have a relationship, kind of like a referral. Oh, I know, when I want my hair done, I go to Sally Joe, right? And it's easy to refer. In this wise, I think that bigger organizations that are funding or supporting some of these mainstream organizations should also consider, looking at the grassroots. If you don't have some type of connection with a grassroots, whether it's training, whether it's yearly meetings, something to show that you're touching us, you're getting the money. If, putting something in place to say, we're not going to support you, or we're going to reduce this, or we're going to maybe pull back that is a bigger discussion. I do understand that, but that is a way that, when you start messing with people's money, things happen. So, considering, oh, yeah, we give you XYZ, you're saying you're doing all of this, but okay, your numbers are still the same. My numbers aren't monitored because I don't get no money. But when your numbers are the same and you're still having the same outcome, what is the, I don't know what the case management is on the back end, but with us, as it, a lot of times when I'm helping people, they've gone through the mainstreams. I'm the last option. Oh, someone referred me because they ran out of resources. Point two, this one really gets to me, and this is gonna bother some people. But let me know, let y'all know I ain't scared of nobody. When it comes to a woman needing help, she's been running for a week. And she got kids, and she's on this couch and she's on that couch. She's running for her life. Why is it the door is shut for her to receive that last bed space that you have? Because it didn't happen today. She's homeless due to domestic violence. Okay, I get that. So when I get my building, we will house those women. We will bridge that gap. It doesn't matter that you were out of the abuse a week or two, and you can kind of clearly tell me how you've been, running. And if you got 3 kids, how many households can you go to? What about him following you at these different households? And now you have no other resource. And then you call the place that has a bed, but they don't let you in because you've been gone for a week. That question irritates me. I apologize. Sorry, but not sorry.
That was what everyone needed to hear, Rhonda. And we never apologize for advocating, because that's what we do. We never need to apologize for advocating, because that's what we do. So I'm gonna thank you, Joyce. That was a wonderful segue. Thank you. Moving over to Molly. Molly, share your thoughts.
Thank you. I get those calls all the time. I've been gone. I've been up and down asking for help, but I'm like, well, tell me how can I qualify you? How can I get you here? Let me know how I can help you, meeting their needs at where they are, meeting somebody and giving them that just that space, if it is for an hour, a week, a day, I don't care. Let me bring you here so you can get that peace of mind, so you can have that meal, so you can have that bed to sleep in without worrying what's gonna happen when he or she comes home, right? So these kids can have the opportunity to sit down and read a book at bedtime instead of, worrying about mom or dad yelling or having to leave in the middle of the night. That was me. Those were my kids. I left 53 times before I was able to leave for good. I showed up to the organization, that the agency that I work for now, barefoot, clothes on my back, a little diaper bag with my 6-month-old daughter, my 3-year-old son, and my 6-year-old son. All those years ago, if it wasn't for somebody listening to me and letting me cry and collapse on the floor, because I had so much trauma. I was semi-agoraphobic, locked in a closet for so many days at a time, eating whatever we could. And the woman came, and the advocate came and took my kids and said, let me get you something to eat. Let's get you cleaned up. Mom just needs a few minutes, And I was just held. I was allowed to cry. And that was so powerful to me. So when I make those connections with agencies, it's showing them the work. It's showing what we're doing. It's showing my agency, bringing in the people that really need us and helping them. Even if they don't stay with us, understanding that, it's okay. You're not ready. But when you are ready, we're going to be here. And we're going to accept you.
Molly, thank you so much. And I'm just gonna walk around again, even though I'm in a virtual walk around. Molly, thank you. Rhonda, Joyce, that's key, because agencies and those that serve victims and survivors. Nima put in the chat a statement that's so like screening in versus screening out, right? A very real step in creating safety. But is that what's happening, right? So I just want to just reiterate for the hearers out there, things that were lifted up in this response. Molly said she left 50 some odd times. Going back to what Joyce said about believing victims, just because they go back does not mean that this is no longer their truth, right? These things are happening, but they haven't cognitively connected with a strategy. They're hungry, they're tired, they're trauma, they're triggered, they're living a nightmare. We have lived nightmares. And I think people, so in the what Joyce said about believing, and then what Rhonda said about just engaging, right? It starts with recognizing humanity. We all know one thing, we've all trauma-informed care. We know one thing, people don't make good decisions while they're in the midst of trauma. We know that. Statistically, we know it, but cognitively and with our hearts, we need to connect that information when we're dealing with human beings living in and through trauma. And that's basically, agencies. If you see someone's humanity, you'll make room. You'll treat them with dignity. I'm sorry, I just had to, y'all just blessing me. So here
Powerful. Thank you for saying that.
It's so much about just being seen, which that just is key. And so I'm gonna segue something Rhonda said, and I'm gonna integrate that in because we can't leave this space without addressing it. When you think about support, right? And you think about some of the things when it comes to a lot of what Rhonda mentioned and a lot of what Joyce mentioned also, Molly, resources, right? So when it comes to funding, how can mainstream organizations that are getting all of these resources, if you had a wish list for partnering, you know, beyond what you said about, you know, just having a memorandum of understanding for how we share resources, having a memorandum of understanding, and then acknowledging the need for certain resources. You had a wish list, and I want each of you to offer one thing that you wish for. What would those organizations be doing differently if you could have a wish list around funding and access to resources? Can we start with you this time, Molly?
Ooh, you're hitting me where my wish list is so great, expansive.
Just give us one, because we want to make it easy for people to connect with what your need is and to say, okay, we can't do these 10 things, but we may be able to do this one.
So we live in a very rural community where housing is always the biggest need. And so apartments, transitional living, that would be at the top of my list, with resources for household management and to maintain the housing and to give somebody that secure space to grow and to live. That would be at the top of my list.
Thank you. Powerful. Thank you. Simple. You would think easy. So somebody please write that down. I'm going to go to Rhonda. Rhonda.
Yeah, so this was one of my questions, and it's because I think that in order for us to get the financial experience, we have to have memorandum of understandings with organizations that are already getting grant funds and things like that. But one of an immediate need that can happen is hotel vouchers, because as Molly said, that's my biggest need. I can feed you, I can clothe you. I have an entire community of women that will donate clothes. Like, I can make a call, I can make a post, and I can furnish your entire house. I've done it. I have been able to get dental work done for a 19-year-old girl whose jaw was broken and 4 teeth were knocked out by one of the top dentistries here in Atlanta. So those kind of things, in-kind things, I feel comfortable with getting those. But when it comes to hotel stays, that's expensive. So, you know, I have to ask a little bit harder, but we know that a lot of these organizations, if they don't have bed space, they may have hotel vouchers. So a simple memorandum of understanding could be that, you know, maybe we're not ready to bring you in as a grant partner, but we're willing to give, you know, 5 hotel vouchers a year, you know, to 2 organizations. Something as simple as that will help a whole lot as well.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Joyce, what say you?
2 quickly. One being the ability to help individuals to leave, you know, actually leave the city, to relocate, because a lot of times, and for us, as much as I possibly can, that is one of the things that I advocate for the most. When I was going through my own experience, one of the biggest issues that I had is the fact that I don't have any family in the city. And I had other family members and friends in other places that I could have potentially gone to for support, me and my children. But I didn't have the financial means to do it. Because at the same time, I was losing my job, they were downsizing. So, you know, just dealing with the trauma of having to get out of abusive relationship and children, and a lot of insecurities and unsureness about myself, not really feeling comfortable to talk to people in the city, even though I had friends here and I was actually in a couple of organizations, but I didn't feel comfortable with sharing that I've gone through this abuse for, you know, all these years. So it's very important to me to help people to find other places that they could potentially go, where folks maybe either don't know them or at least don't know all of their business, so that they can go somewhere and feel some sense of dignity and respect. And the other piece would be support as it relates to advocacy, because a lot of times, you know, clients will need to go to orders of protection hearings and things of that nature. They can't afford an attorney. So it would be helpful to at least be able to have someone on retainer, or someone that we can give those legal supports to, so that when they go for divorce hearings or they go for their orders of protection and they may not understand all of the legal jargon, that they can at least go being as prepared as they possibly can. Policy is a huge thing for me. So I'm wanting that education for myself, but I'm also wanting it to be able to provide as options for victims and survivors as well.
Thank you. So I'm just going to reiterate some of what we're hearing. So that just acknowledging that sometimes a tangible resource like a housing voucher for a hotel, and even I lost my thought. Getting the boots on the ground or the grassroots organizations connected to funding in creative ways. That's an example. That's one example. You may not be ready to partner right now, those kinds of things. And going back to this idea of less restrictive access, those are not you all's collective words, that's me kind of summarizing, but how you're thinking about what a bid means today, something that Molly said about showing up and being able to get access right now. Right now, we're going to give you a place to be right now. And so understanding when the larger organization says, this is the framework, this is the parameters, they have to come after, if they come after a week, then this, if they come before, it's so restrictive. Often people just are not getting the support that they need in the moment. So what we're hearing is that when people know, like, again, we can tout data all day long. We can tell you what victims are experiencing, but until someone takes the time to stop and listen to those in the work who've been victims, now survivors, that's why things aren't changing the way at the pace that they should be, because this is an epidemic, right? It should not be. So I'm gonna just ask one final question, and I need each of you to just give it like a 60-second kind of quick, because I don't want you to not be able to contribute. So the last thing is, there is this thing that's going on, and all of us see it, this performative justice, performative allyship. Give me one thing that you would like to see them do, take accountability for, to move meaningful change. And I'll go to Rhonda this time. Rhonda. Just quickly, because I want everybody's been so great. Just give a.
I was deep in thought, and not to repeat, but I do believe hearing our voices is probably one of the biggest tools of life that we have.
Yes.
Is the spoken word, and to be heard and acknowledge that we hear you, not just hear, but a response is that we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce.
Yeah, I feel the same way. For me, it is, and it's about accountability. I mean, acknowledgement, acknowledge that, yes, I have directly, indirectly pushed you from the table. I have directly, indirectly not allowed you to be here. I hear you, I see you, I apologize. Let me see how I can fix this. Let's see how we can fix this, and mean it, and then do it. Because to say it is one thing, but to actually act on it after you have acknowledged is quite another. So that's what it would be for me. Don't just tell me,
Thank
but
you.
show me, and let's do it together.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Molly?
Just to jump on that, to put it in place. Don't tell me that you're going to do it when we're having a conversation around a table of shared, shared communication, but show me what you're going to do and just put it into place, because it's what's needed.
I want to say just thank you so much for being open and honest and sharing yourselves with us for this session. Thank you so much. And I'm honored to be invited to facilitate. And I think we're going to start almost immediately into our next session. So I'm just really grateful. I hope I'm not missing any of my assignment here. But I just want to just appreciate you all for what you contributed to this moment in time. Thank you.
Welcome back to the main room. I'm Casey Keene, Director of Programs and Prevention for NRCDV. As we wrap up day 2, we hope that you are thinking concretely about action steps you can take as an individual that is part of this collective moving toward liberation. What changes can you begin to implement today in your agency to center racial justice for those your agency serves, for your workplace, in your community, in your relationships, and for our movement as a whole? In what ways can you build prevention programming that's guided by the vision, the needs, and the priorities of survivors of color? You are going to leave here with one solid commitment, at least. And this community is going to support you in following through. So please, I'd like you to start writing down at least one action you will take starting today. I want to remind you of what our panelists asked for this morning or earlier this afternoon. Rhonda Anita said, "Hear our voices, to be heard and to be acknowledged." Joyce Kyle said, "It's about accountability. Acknowledge that you have directly and indirectly pushed us from the table. Apologize, explore ways to fix it, and then do it." Molly Dolores said, "Put it in place. Don't tell me that you're going to do it. Show me." So I'd like you to think back to all the amazing speakers we heard from over these past 2 days. They talked about community-based solutions, policy advocacy, and economic justice. They talked about elevating women of color survivor leadership, disrupting anti-Blackness, engaging men of color, and integrating intersectionality into our trauma-informed practices. I want you right now to pull out your phone or your other device, open a new browser window, get on Twitter, get on Facebook or Instagram or any other social network you're a part of. And if you're not on social media, I want you to start an email or a text to a group of friends or family. You're going to share one concrete thing you're going to do to impact change today. Put it out there into the universe so that others can help hold you accountable to it. I want you to tag your message with #OneThing and #PreventIPV. Prevent IPV because it connects you to this event, and One Thing because that's our campaign for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, is that we all can do one thing toward collective liberation. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Friends, now that we know better, we need to do better. And this community is here to support you. we invite you to join our Advancing Collective Liberation Learning Community. Brecken's dropping that link for peer support in actualizing our commitments to ourselves and to each other. And now it is my great pleasure to pass the floor back to our Town Hall Weaver, Vivian Sanchez.
Hello, I'm so full of just so much happiness. I love hearing all of you speak, all of our panelists, Casey, like everyone, Roy, y'all's amazing little breakout room. I am just in wow with everyone. You all inspire me. You all give me hope. And you all are my reason to keep pushing forward and keep advocating. I just want it to be known. I am so thankful for all of your voices, and all of them were heard today. No one went unseen. No one went unheard. And I just really do appreciate y'all and our amazing interpreters. Thank y'all. That way everyone is able to hear us. So thank you. Earlier this morning, I read a poem that I wrote when I was in a dark place. Recently, I revisited this poem and I actually rewrote it from the perspective of where I'm at now. So I am now going to read the new updated version of my poem. It reads, I am worthy of love. In fact, I'll always be. Love can be healthy. Because of my trauma, I put a lens on how I viewed love. But now I'm taking those lenses off. And I now know love can and is actually healthy. Love should not hurt. He hurt me, but he did not break me. I've learned I am good enough. In fact, I am more than good enough. I've learned that I can feel safe now and that I am safe. It's okay to have triggers, but I'm able to overcome some of them now. I can drink and smell coffee without having to think of him. I can look in the mirror and feel empowered and feel proud of who I am. Recently, my case closed and I got justice. He will never be able to hurt another person in the free world. I testified in court in front of him. Now, I share my story with the world. I am an advocate now. I'm doing all the things I never thought I could. I've learned through many therapy sessions that I did nothing to deserve this, that it was not my fault. I do not allow anyone to break me because I am strong, courageous, and unbreakable. I've learned that I am loved and that I am cared for. I matter. I survived an unthinkable, and now I thrive. That is how I am feeling today. These past couple of months, I feel so empowered, and I hope I can be the example that healing is possible and that no matter what you're going through, you will make it out on the other side. I just have to emphasize though, you can't know that things will get better if you're not here. So continue to be here and continue to be strong and continue to fight for yourself, for survivors, and for our future generations. I would now like to introduce a container exercise. I know we've heard a lot of heavy things today, and at this moment you could be feeling fine, or you could be feeling a little triggered, or maybe just a little uncomfortable because we have heard a lot. This exercise I like to practice whenever I feel a little overwhelmed, when I'm overthinking, and it's just a really nice way for me to just put it away for a little bit. It's called the container exercise. So if you're comfortable, I would invite you all to close your eyes, get in a comfortable position. I'm going to give everyone a moment to do that. Okay. I'd like you to imagine a container that is strong, safe, and secure. It can be a box or a purse or a container of any kind, really. You can make it pretty, colorful, or plain and simple. It's up to you. You can let it have a top or a lid that can be closed and open whenever you want. Go ahead and imagine that container now. What comes to your mind? And I want you just to really picture this container. Now let everything that has been moving around in your mind float into that container. Let any thoughts, memories, images, or ideas go into that container. I'm going to give everyone a couple minutes just to really put all their emotions in that container, all your thoughts, all your feelings. Now with everything inside, go ahead and close the container and put it away for later use. So I just want everyone to really imagine like putting away this container. You may now open your eyes. The point of this container isn't to forever push aside our problems. It's a temporary use whenever we're feeling overwhelmed and we don't want to think about that thing, if we're not in a safe environment to think about it, or if we just aren't mentally ready. The container is a great way to be able to a little coping mechanism to get through the day. I personally really love it and I use it quite a lot. Just put a stress away and revisit it whenever you're ready. Today, I know it's almost time for all of us to go. So I do want to leave all of us with some self-care ideas. And I challenge all of you here today to do one of these. So I'm expecting y'all, if you want to, if you're comfortable. But some self-care ideas that I really like to do is I listen to my favorite music, songs that make me feel empowered, that make me feel good. They're really helpful. A really good one for me personally is Praying by Kesha. It just very empowering. Enjoy a long bubble bath, get some good self-care in, go for a walk, share a hug with a loved one, if that's your love language. Exercise, even if it's just for 5 minutes, get your body moving. Maybe even attend a care support group if there's one around you. Reflect on. Reflection is a really big one for me, reflecting on your gratitude for the day. I love practicing mindfulness and gratitude. With that being said, I do appreciate all of you, and being able to reflect on all the good things on my day is just super, super helpful. Also with this, these are just a couple ideas, but also with this, I would like to say self-care isn't always beautiful. It's not always bubble baths and face masks and sometimes self-care can be laying in bed and just allowing yourself to cry. Self-care looks different for everyone, but whatever you choose to do, I know and trust in all of you that you will make the right decision in your self-care. And with that being said, it has been an honor to be y'all's event weaver. And I am so thankful and so grateful for this opportunity. And I am so thankful for all of you beautiful speakers here today and everyone that attended. Thank you so, so much, all of you. It was a good one. Goodbye.